Cardano Shield is an open source security extension for wallets for Cardano. We have integrated already with Gero Wallet, and Begin Wallet has actually also did an integration with us. So since the release of Cardano Shield, which happened on, I want to say January 23rd or 4th, so we have added 195 blacklisted items, so like assets, domains, addresses, and there are 700 unique wallets using Cardano Shield today, and we processed already 5,000 transactions since it was released.
Now, there have been a lot of scams lately, and all these scam tokens that people get airdropped, and I get asked continuously, Pete, is this a real deal? Is this something I should be actioning or not? And thankfully, there's new things coming out there, such as Cardano Shield in the community that will protect you guys from a lot of these type of scams. And Adam is joining me on this episode to talk through Cardano Shield, and we're going to learn exactly how it's going to protect you guys out there. But Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Good to be here, Pete.
So what exactly are you building here, and why are you building it?
So Cardano Shield is an open source security extension for wallets for Cardano. We have integrated already with Gero Wallet, and Begin Wallet has actually also did an integration with us a few days ago. And essentially, Cardano Shield is essentially a tool for wallets to essentially receive information on the transaction itself. So inside the transaction, there's a bunch of information: who's sending the funds, who's receiving the funds, how much funds, what tokens they're going to receive, from what website did the dApp and the wallet have a connection with, and so on. So we take all of this information, and we essentially analyze the information, and we put a risk assessment on each of these categories. So, for example, if we keep a blacklist and a whitelist. So if the website is blacklisted and the tokens there are tagged as scam tokens, so it's obviously a risky transaction. Now, we don't, the users can still go through, they can sign the transaction if they wish. The whole point of Cardano Shield is to emphasize and put forward a good user experience for the user to understand exactly what they're going to sign, and each wallet can decide themselves how visually they would like to represent this data. So with Cardano Shield, this information will be available for them. So that's a one-liner on what it is, Cardano Shield.
And like I said, this is perfect timing for this type of stuff because there are so many scams going out there at the moment. Now, you said that there's whitelists and blacklists. How do addresses or websites get added to this whitelist and blacklist?
Yeah, so we initially, the fund with Catalyst Fund 10, initially one of the requirements there was to have a machine learning algorithm that would find the phishing, either scams or wallet addresses or tokens. So what we released already is way ahead of schedule. Like the whole fund is all the way through Fund 10, and already in January we released an MVP, a minimal viable product, that includes one algorithm out of 3 that we will eventually build. So the algorithm that we already have in place, the machine learning algorithm, covers the websites, so the dApps essentially that you will interact with. So we have an algorithm that essentially looks at the website, scans the website. There's a bunch of tests that the website goes through in a matter of milliseconds. And at the end of that test, we essentially have a probability score of how probable it is that this website is a phishing scheme rather. Now, if a whitelist was already tagged, so for example, these airdropped tokens that everyone is receiving right now, they include like a pretty bad image, pixelated image with websites in them. So if you go into that website, it's being flagged as a scam. So instead of going through that test every time, we just add it to a blacklist. So right now, adding and removing things from the blacklist has to go through a human review because we need a data set that is much larger than what we have. We need a few tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of transactions to have higher confidence over time with the algorithm. So right now it goes through a manual process, and we review essentially the sites. You don't need that big of a brain to understand that this is a scam. It's a copycat of exactly the same website that is a legitimate one. And the community could also request either through a ticket to us via GitHub or just doing something called a pull request on GitHub, and they can tweak the list themselves, and we just need to approve them. So currently there's 4 of us that are reviewing these tickets, and we on average we get something like 2-3 tickets a day already through either GitHub or DMs or Discord. And we also Twitter is a pretty good place to find these scam alerts of users who don't necessarily know about Cardano Shield, but they're tagging like the projects and stuff like that, and the Twitter algorithm catches that. So we see that, we trace that, and we also add we sometimes add just websites ourselves.
This is really good. So these scams, like for people that haven't seen these scams, they're airdrop tokens. They're these video ads. They're being prevalent at the moment with using AI generated voiceovers. So it might be a video of Charles, and they write the script, and the whole AI is taking over and sounds exactly like Charles saying that they're doing an airdrop or something like that. And these things are crazy. There's a little QR code, and it'll take you to a website. So people can submit those websites to this process or do their own pull requests on GitHub and get that website blacklisted as soon as possible. So that's a really good way, if you see the ad, that I can contribute and protect other users, correct?
Yep, exactly. So I'm trying to push, our GitHub and our Twitter as much as I can with we're doing some collaborations and partnerships with various people. So, for example, Xerberus, that's one collaboration that we're going to do. And what they're adding to this equation is actually doing the same thing that we're doing with the websites, but with the tokens themselves. With the wallets themselves. So a wallet that was part of a phishing scheme. They have the ML algorithm already in place to kind of track the funds and understand if this wallet is part of a scam or not. And last week, we integrated their very early beta version of what they called Siren, which is another open source project that they are managing. So that's already in our code. We just need them to basically finalize some transition that they're doing on their side. And when that transition is done through a database that they need to upgrade, then Cardano Shield will also be available for a wallet-to-wallet transaction and not just with a dApp transaction. So, for example, if you, I'll give you an example of a very not sophisticated scam, but like it's a very popular scam. So, a hacker can get into your PC through a Trojan or something like that, and they can basically make your clipboard, every time you copy something, they will paste something else when you paste. So, for example, you want to copy your own wallet address to send funds to yourself from another wallet, for example, or you want to copy someone, let's say a project or someone you're collaborating with, you want to pay them ADA for their services. So they send you an address. You copy that address, and once this scam basically detects that you have copied a Cardano address, it will put a different address into your clipboard when you're about to paste that address. So imagine that you copy something, this clipboard thing is happening in the background, and then you approach your wallet, you're going to paste that wallet, and you're about to send funds to someone else. So at that stage, when you're about to review that transaction, we will tell you that we detect that this address, we won't know that you copied something else, but we will know that this address is malicious because of both our algorithm and Cerberus's algorithm. So that's like one type of scam that this can protect from. And also, sometimes users they can click something by accident. They'll send all of their funds or all of their tokens. There's not enough, unfortunately, there's not enough steps you can take to protect everyone and everything. But even if we mitigate it by a few percentages, then I feel like we did a good job.
So there's quite a lot to this equation. That scam there, the malware one where it replaces the address, that one's super scary. I haven't heard of that one before. So
it is. It's not as easy to put it into someone's computer like sending an airdrop. But when you do that, it takes for the user a while, because who reads the whole address? You know what I mean? Unless you're using a handle. So a handle is a pretty good security feature in that regard, right? But when you copy an address of someone, that can happen, and we've seen it happen actually in for one of our community members. It happened to them. That gave us the idea to also implement this a few months ago. Yeah.
All right, super scary. And I like the partnership with Xerberus as well, and being able to use their wallet tracker and see where funds are going. I think that one's super important too, because you can start bouncing stolen funds from wallet to address, and you wouldn't know where it's going. So eventually it needs to go somewhere for someone to exit. So if you could follow that entire path and map potential future scams or other scams that are related to that person, great. That's perfect.
Yep, exactly. And this is why whitelisting addresses, it needs to remain as objective as possible, right? Like for example, we wouldn't accept someone telling us, "Oh, I want to be whitelisted, please. Like, I'll pay you ADA every month," or something like that. Like that will be against everything that is, secure about this. So it has to be objective. We do have thoughts about making. Again, if this catches more popularity and it becomes a tool for thousands of users, eventually you would want some governance on who is whitelisted and why they're whitelisted to remain scalable, right? There's so much people can do in terms of reviewing. The OG Cardano people will probably remember CNFTIO from 2 years ago, where it took them sometimes weeks to verify a project, right? So we don't want the same thing to happen with whitelists and blacklists, and it's much more prevalent with this one, because a scam, when it takes place, if you catch it, in the first few minutes, it's really like the difference between a few minutes and 30 minutes. It's a few thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in ADA that can potentially be stolen at that time. You have to be very quick. The system needs to be extremely agile and flexible and scalable. So we are moving in steps where we prefer to release something like an MVP version of it. We started with Gero. We're moving to small wallets, so Begin, for example. Eventually, we will need to test this with larger wallets if they would like to use. So Yoroi, Vesper, Eternal. I'm trying to get in talks with the developers of these wallets as we speak, introduce them to what we do, and hopefully this will be like, a regular thing eventually, that no one will even think about that it needs to be built specifically. It will be like built in, and people will habituate, for the fact that their wallets are now a bit more secure. They know a bit better what's going to happen, and if there's risk or if there isn't risk. That's what we aim for to happen.
And since you're mentioning the other wallets as well, a little bit earlier you said it's also up to the wallets how they display this information and the UI, the UX behind it all as well. I did have a look at Gero, and I think they did a really good implementation of this, and it really does alert the users and warn them what on earth is going on. So what will it take, and what do you expect from these wallets to implement around the data and information that you guys are collecting?
Yeah, so we built it in a way that it's supposed to be extremely easy to integrate with. So it's a simple API call that the wallet does basically to us, Cardano Shield. So we will provide them with an API key and like a username. And in their code, all they need to do is send us there's 3 pieces of information we need. We need something called a CBOR hex. That's basically before the transaction is being signed. the blockchain creates essentially a hex file that includes a lot of information in it. So it includes what tokens are being sent, how much ADA is involved, what's the fee, what's the addresses, and so on. So we just need this. We need the URL if it's a DApp, and our backend is doing its thing, and it returns a response. So it says this URL is whitelisted, this to address is blacklisted. We see that no tokens are being given back after the transaction, so it's a risk. You paid 100 ADA, you don't receive anything. So, and at the end of that, there's like a score: medium, like low, medium, and high. Now they can take this information and they can do whatever they want with it. Me, for example, I helped design the new UX for the transaction window, so I worked together with the Gero Wallet developers. And for me, it was really important to color code things. So if it's good, green; if it's bad, red. It's don't need to think too much. If you see the whole screen is red, you probably won't. You don't be quick and click on sign and confirm. You read a little bit. Oh, there's X here. X no good. V good. So it needs to be this simple. So they receive this information. If they want to make a gauge, if they want to make just the words and whatever they decide to do. Obviously, if they go the full length and they also put some effort into creating this UX to be very easy, it will be all the better. But we can't dictate for them how to display. So it was supposed to be very easy to receive the information from us. It takes an extra few milliseconds per transaction to receive this information. And we put a lot of effort to make this as robust and scalable as possible. There's a whole milestone on the Catalyst funding just for this. So we took 2 months to prepare back-end servers and redundancies and load balancers and all the things you can imagine, so we can digest thousands of transactions a minute, basically. And we're almost ready for that to happen.
Okay. Now, when you say scaling, load balancers, I run load balancers myself. The AWS bill for it is not pretty sometimes.
Nope.
And this leads to, like, how are you guys funding this? Is it purely just going to be relying on Catalyst in the long term? Because I'm worried about these wallets integrating this in, and then in 2 years' time, you guys run out of Catalyst funding for whatever reason. The voting got skewed, and you don't get funding to keep it running. How are you going to keep it going? The wallets are going to rely on this data. Community is going to rely on this as well.
That's a good question. For me, I want to say that I would prefer for this to be free for as long as it can be, right? I mean, at least a basic version, like the basic risk assessment, that needs to remain free. Just like, I don't know, Malwarebytes has like a free version. You do get premium versions. There are ways in the security world in general to create premium, more tailored versions. It also depends if we go with a B2B or B2C kind of monetization. We have ideas. For now, the Catalyst funding should cover at least a year of operation, even at the worst case scenario. Like, it's actually the best case scenario because it means millions of people are using it. But the worst case scenario, money-wise, we have a year worth of operational going on. We do have ideas how to monetize this. It will either be through limiting how many transactions you can do a day. So that means, let's say, a wallet that has millions of those will need to pay a little bit extra for us to process at least the API calls between us. And there could also be some premium features in Cardano Shield that maybe users would like to have. So an example for that would be analytics, like a history of all the transactions, a scan wallet feature where they scan the wallet, they see if there's any risk in their wallet currently, if they interacted with anything, a burning feature where you can burn those NFTs that you don't like, the ones that are tagged as scam. So there's a couple of ideas how to tackle this. I do want to believe that if this funding was if previous Fund 10 was funded based on this idea, and it wasn't even the maximum amount of funding. I would like to believe that if this is actually popular and it's being like regulated by the community, that the catalyst funding will happen again if it needs to happen. Like if there will be a fund issue, I would like to believe the community, if it will actually serve its purpose, and millions of ADA will be saved, and that's actually a metric that I'm following. How many ADA we potentially are saving. I'll eventually, publish those numbers, because it's also, I'm a BI geek, so it's nice to track these kind of metrics. So yeah, I want to believe that it will be covered through the community, through Catalyst or through Intersect, or we will find ways to monetize this. And if it's popular and people will find it useful, then they'll help keep this alive.
Okay. Well, it's good that you have all those plans. I like the pro features. I do like to do my own snooping as well. So if I'm working with someone, they send me a wallet, if I can do a little bit of digging into their wallet profile and look at their history, see if they're involved with any scams, that would be quite useful too. So, and I'm sure the community will jump in, wants to see the usefulness of this, and it gets proliferated through the different wallet ecosystems. People should be supporting this. So fingers crossed it does in the future, or that you guys work out a really, really good way of monetizing the whole process, or a VC or someone comes in. Who knows? Who knows what it is? The future is very, very flexible. Well, Adam, this sounds absolutely amazing. And I highly encourage anyone that hasn't seen it yet to download, install Gero Wallet, give it a try. Give Gero Wallet a try. It's a brilliant wallet as well. And see these scams in action. I can put up a couple of scam links if you really want to try it, but I highly recommend that you don't mess around with it, because you could possibly accidentally get scammed. At least use a test wallet or something. Adam, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this interview for the viewers?
So yeah, no, thanks for having me. I will just give you a few numbers that I've collected so far. So since the release of Cardano Shield, which happened on, I want to say January 23rd or 4th, so we have added 195 blacklisted items, so like assets, domains, addresses. Yeah, and there are 700 unique wallets using Cardano Shield today. And we processed already 5,000 transactions since it was released. So yeah, it looks like it's working. We found a bunch of bugs. We released at least 7 or 8 versions after the initial MVP, but it looks stable now. It looks good, and we are planning for the 4th milestone, basically, of Catalyst, which is to create all the user feedback and the feedback loops, and how to get the community more involved, and stuff like that.
I highly recommend anyone to jump on cardanoshield.com, check out the website, see what these guys are doing, support them, follow them on Twitter as well. All the links, everything down below in the show notes for you guys. Adam, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and sharing everything you're doing with Cardano Shield. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.